Hi guys, and how are you? It's Saturday, so I'm streaming in the middle of the afternoon, which is weird for me. I don't know if anybody's actually here to hang out, because it's a Saturday afternoon, so maybe you've got stuff to do, which would be fair enough. And yeah, today I'm doing landscapes, and I'm actually specifically drawing a fantasy background, so it's gonna be interesting. And ciao Marco, sì, oggi faccio landscape, ieri ho fatto anche landscape e in realtà non è andata troppo male, quindi spero che anche oggi insomma vada abbastanza bene. So I was saying in Italian how yesterday I did a landscape as well, and it didn't go too badly. Actually, I was quite happy with how it turned out. I'm gonna just it was this one. Hang on. And hang on, maybe, okay, there you go. So it was this landscape here that I did, starting from this reference going into this one. So, and I did it in 1 hour, so I'm pretty happy with the result, to be honest. Today I'm doing a fantasy background, which it's a little bit more difficult, I think, to do, because I'm gonna start with a realistic reference, because I'm not good enough with landscapes and background drawing to actually go straight into creating one from my own head. But then after starting in a more realistic way, I'm gonna try and add some fantasy elements to it, which would be interesting. Okay, so let's go. In terms of the start, I think I'm gonna do pretty much what I was doing yesterday. So sort of create a roughly identical, or if not identical, like similar kind of like painting as the reference. So I just created my canvas and pixel locked it so that I can add a little bit of a gradient. Nope. So as you can see, you can do gradients by simply like color picking 2 colors and then choosing the G shortcut on Photoshop if you're using a Mac, and then just like trace your basically trace how big you want this gradient to be and what the gradient's origin and starting point and end point should be. So I basically just set this to be my basic layer underneath, and then I'm gonna create clipping masks and put all of the new layers on top. Grazie Marco, buon gioco direi a quel punto. And yeah, so I am going to start by using the lasso tool and simply trying to replicate all these shapes that I see in the reference, like this. And I'm basically just color picking the various colors from the reference, and then just creating these basic shapes. Oh, but I did it wrong. Yeah, there you go. I didn't create a new layer. So if you don't put everything on different layers, then it's a little bit difficult, because you can't sort of... Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just... okay, there you go. So yeah, it's a little bit harder because you can't just change all the elements on different layers as easy as as you would. So definitely try and put everything on different layers if you can. Also, how are you guys? I mean, how are you doing on this fine Saturday afternoon? I admit I had a very late morning because I had a very late night. I went to bed past 3, and so yeah, I woke up very late. I was supposed to go to my rowing team practice, but I didn't go because I was too tired. I'm terrible. But I wanted to sleep. So yeah, I am bad. And now I am doing the river, and then these areas here in the very foreground with the various land areas. I mean, I'm not sure that I'm keeping the right proportions, but I am, you know, trying. I mean, you can definitely refine all of these later on, so don't worry. I shall prevail, I hope. Okay. Hey Mana! How are you? Good afternoon. Having a chill morning and evening, still tired after the test ride and hike. Fair enough, makes sense. I feel like, yeah, you're definitely entitled to feeling tired after all that you did yesterday. Thing is, I didn't even, you know, went to bed that late because I was like doing some crazy stuff, or, you know, going dancing or out clubbing or whatever. I was literally just at home, like chatting with some friends. But yeah, it got very late, and yeah. I feel like I could be doing these trees with like some clone brushes, which I'm probably gonna do after I have decided that the rough positions where I place them are kind of okay. Well, I mean, it's kind of coming along. I mean, it's kind of becoming sort of, you know, the proportions aren't too bad, I think. Not too bad so far. Okay, so now I need to place the other trees over here, and maybe also give some indications that this area is like a little bit further back than, like, otherwise it looks very flat right now, so I'm going to just try and change that a little bit. I was probably pretty silly in choosing this kind of rock that looks kind of like very textury. I should have chosen a rock that was a little bit more samey, I think. Because I just made my life a lot harder for no reason. Okay. Oh yeah, I probably need to save this, otherwise I might lose everything. I never remember to save when I open a file, which is definitely not a good, definitely not a good idea. So the reason why I chose this reference is because I wanted to add some, as I was saying, some fantasy elements to it, and to do so I think I wanted to add some sort of really nice like elven houses maybe or something like that, all along this waterfall. Mano says, after laying all the base layers, do you group them to render or just lay a rock? It's still so hard to get the lighting right on rocks for me. Yes, it is very hard for me too. To be honest, I have no idea what my workflow is in terms of this kind of trying to, you know, speed paint a background, because it's so new to me. So I can't say that I have one workflow that works best for now. It's more like I'm trying to see what works and what doesn't. Yesterday what I did was that I started render, like just did all the base kind of proportions and stuff to kind of make it look like the original, at least, you know, at the first glance. And then I kind of rendered individually each area by keeping them separate, so that if I wanted to apply specific lighting and shading just to one element, it would still be just on a specific layer, and I could manipulate it a little bit more easily. And then just to do some final effects, like, you know, adding some noise and stuff like that, I then added some, I didn't even merge them together. I created a, what's it called? So like if you do a group and then you can convert it to smart object. So that's what I did. I converted it to smart objects so that I could apply certain effects like noise and you know, like blurs and stuff like that to the, you know, to the whole painting basically. But yeah, so let's do these trees. So yeah, at the moment I'm just really, you know, going in with basic shapes, so that I have some sort of like a almost like a placeholding area for this. Like here as well, I know there's gonna be some shrubs. And on this side, there's these trees over here. In the reference, these are actually quite dark, but I think I might just make them a little bit lighter when I am actually, you know, kind of rendering them a little bit more. The loop tool. I don't know what that is actually. What is the loop tool? Okay, so there will be these shrubs over here and like a darker shrub here to give a little bit of a feeling of you know, stuff being in the foreground. Actually, I think I might put these in the foreground and separate them from the other ones. There you go. Okay, now it's time to try and make sense of these rocks over here, because they don't make sense very much. Yeah, definitely, there's so many tools in Photoshop, which is, I think, what makes Procreate a little bit more intuitive, I guess. Like, a lot of people use Procreate as their first kind of like digital drawing tool, and I think that's why. I mean, because in comparison to Photoshop, that looks a little bit intimidating. It looks, yeah, Procreate I think looks a little bit more like you can, you know, use it and understand how it works reasonably fast. Also, before coming into the live, I was playing Spiritfarer again. I don't know if you guys ever played it. It's I was absolutely obsessed by this game last year around like last Christmas, so like not Christmas 2021, but Christmas 2020. Oh my god, I used to play it so much, and it was so beautiful. And I didn't finish it. Like, I didn't finish the the lasso tool. Okay. Yeah, and like I didn't want to finish the Spiritfarer game because I just didn't want it to end. I know it sounds so lame, but honestly, I decided that I wasn't, like, I didn't feel ready to finish it, basically. And so I just had it there for all this time, and now I have picked it up again. I was like, you know what? Today might be the day that I actually finish Spiritfarer. And yeah, I mean, I might. Depends how the night goes. Because I also have a date with my partner. So I think I might have to stop playing at some point. Even though we live together, we still have kind of dates because, I don't know, I guess we're lame. But yeah, so since we decided that tonight, you know, it's like we're gonna have a little us time. So I definitely cannot play Spiritfarer for the whole day and night because that would be rude. But I kind of just want to play Spiritfarer now, like all day long. And when I opened it back again, I realized that I didn't remember anything about how the game worked. It's like I got to the point last year when I was so into it that I would remember, you know, like I love kind of management games because I just love to have everything under control because I'm a control freak. And so in a game, it's great because you can, you know, you can plan everything. You can, you know, decide like I literally had all of my guests on the boat. Like I remembered what each one of them would like to eat, and I just, you know, I always made them like their favorite food so that they were super happy and they would give me more stuff. I researched, you know, all the extra quests that you can do so that you can kind of, you know, get all the achievements unlocked and stuff like that. So yeah, I definitely like fell for it pretty hard. Okay. If you finish it and are looking for another game like it, look at Gris. Yeah, I did actually. I know about Gris. I think I actually started playing it, but it's on Switch, right? I don't know if did they make the computer version? Because when I was playing it, like I was playing it on a friend's Switch because I don't have a Switch, so. And I remember I liked it, but I was like, yeah, but I can't play it on my own, so. That's, you know, that doesn't work. Okay, doing this thing with all these different types of rock is definitely harder than the background that I was doing yesterday. But I kind of feel like I'm almost there with the just general proportions of this, which is good. I'm going to, okay, try and add a little bit more detail because at the moment it doesn't quite look like anything. I'm definitely gonna try and add a little bit more reflection to this water because it looks terrible. So I'm going to add some blues. Okay, and some whites and brighter stuff in general. So yesterday when I was using these brushes, I found this brush here, the Gouache Perfect, I think it was. I think so. I'm going to just try and add some detail to this waterfall. So I have the very light blue on one. Sorry, I can hear that there's a very loud ambulance in the back. So I have on the foreground color the very light blue, and on the background color the kind of bluish grayish color. So I can just switch them with X. It's the shortcut whenever I want to, so that I can do this like double coloring basically. So it's like the greenish is for the more, like the deeper water where there's no foam, sea foam. Well, not sea foam because it's not the sea, but you know what I mean. Also, Gris, it's on Steam as well. Huh, interesting. Yeah, definitely. I'll definitely download it. I started playing it, as I said, like a couple of years ago, and it looked really good. Okay. So this is sort of starting to look like something. Trying to find the brush that it's a little bit more wet. But no, doesn't look as good. Maybe the bristle. These brushes are really good though. I mean, if you look at the texture, it really does look like gouache. Like, it has this like feeling that you're just mixing it. It's really good. Hey, Yathar Therma 83. Nice to see you. Is it like an indie kind of game? Have a great date night? Yeah, I heard Speedpaint can be kind of addicting. I still haven't tried it out yet. Yeah. I mean, it's Spiritfarer is definitely addicting. Also because you have all these different parts of a good sort of managing game. Like, you know, you can forage for resources. You can get those resources and give them to people on your boat, basically, and you have to keep them happy. So you have to know, you know, what are their favorite foods and all that kind of thing. So yeah, it's definitely very addicting, especially if you like, you know, that sort of game where you have to control everything and make sure that, you know, you're not low on resources and all that stuff, which I do. I love it. Definitely my favorite genre of gaming. I used to spend like just so much time playing games like Civilization. I would literally just start a game and then, you know, it's like 4 in the morning and you think, where has my evening gone? Which is why I can't really play games that much. Like, I get moments where I am really into a game and I play it constantly, and then I just kind of stop all of a sudden because I cannot be trusted, you know, around games, basically. Like, if I have to work on a deadline or like a big project, I definitely cannot be trusted to play games in the meantime, because I will just play that game all day. And that's just not a very healthy way of, you know, dealing with games. So I try and avoid it. Even though I should probably just try and develop a healthier relationship with games, but whatever. So here I have the water that is definitely like improved. I might just try and improve my trees in the foreground because they look super bad at the moment. And I need to be a little bit faster as well because I definitely want to add the fantasy elements too. And at the moment I don't have, I don't have any fantasy elements at the moment, so I definitely need to be faster. Okay, so I'm going to use, I think, one of my, look, so I have like a number of brushes that are kind of what are they called? Like clown brushes, basically, for like grass or like leaves and stuff, which I'm going to use now because I cannot be bothered to to kind of to do all the different trees in you know, by hand. So I'm just gonna I'm just making these kind of like tree trunks over here. In like this basic brown. And then I'm going to might just use like a more fantasy color, like purple or something. Let's see how it works. And yeah, so one more layer. Let's put everything on a different layer. And leaves. And of course, if you just use these kind of clown brushes for everything, it's going to look super bad because it's going to look very obviously not realistic, you know, not realistic foliage. But if you mix this foliage with like different brushes and different colors, it can actually look quite realistic, or at least kind of like not too bad, basically. So let's see if I can manage it. Also, if you change the size of the brush from time to time, it can really help. Let's say that you change the size of the brush and then you change the color slightly. And I mean, of course, it's still gonna look, you know, kind of like pre-made, but it's not as bad usually. And you can, especially if it's, you know, a Speedpaint or something for concept art, you can kind of get away with it. And like I use this Nature Leaves brush and then another brush that is this sample brush over here to kind of add some different types of strokes. Also, as you can see, I am very stealthily trying to cover up all these rocks so that I don't have to actually render it. I mean, you can, I think it's fair enough. I'm trying to add some like much brighter colors and stuff just because I want this to be a little bit more fantasy, as I was saying, so yeah. Maybe some oranges and reds. Manu says, I mostly play games like Apex and Assassin's Creed. This piece kind of reminds me of Rivendell. Yes! Also maybe add some elvish elements. Yes, that's why I kind of chose it actually, because it did remind me of Rivendell too when I saw the image. I've never played Assassin's Creed actually. I guess I'm just not like, I don't really play AAA games. It's like, it's not a choice, it's just I guess I never want to spend the money. I think I have too much foliage. So I'm just gonna quickly erase some of it. Okay, merging these two. I want to put it a little bit more to the side, otherwise you can't really see anything. Okay. So here to these guys, these three over here, I'm also gonna erase some of these a little bit. A little bit of the purple again. I really don't know what I'm doing because I'm going off the reference here and I am just not very good with backgrounds, as I have made it abundantly clear before. So yeah, I don't know if it's gonna work out, pay off. Probably not. Okay, now let's do these trees over here. And then the final, like 2 trees areas. Yeah, I mean, the environments in Assassin's Creed are super good. And I mean, that's why I think it would be super interesting to be like a concept artist on one of those games, because you definitely, you have the chance to create something that is really, really beautiful. But the competition to, get into one of those companies is like, it's so hard. And also the workload is pretty huge. So, I don't know. I'm not saying that I wouldn't want to, work in an environment like that in, 100%. It's more like, I don't know if it would be worth it at the end. It's like, and I mean, I know that it might sound a little bit like, it's not that I'm not good enough, it's just that I don't want to do it. But it's not that, actually. It's more like, I always, like, after a certain age, basically, I've started wondering to myself, like, do I want to work for a company that, asks for so much of my time for a product that is not even, my own IP? And so that's why I decided that, all in all, I actually pretty like, being a freelance artist, because I can choose if I want to work on one of my projects, or if I want to find some more work for for different companies and stuff like that. And still, I mean, there are some people who just really want to work on AAA games, and that's perfectly, it's a very good ambition to have. I'm just talking, for myself and my own perspective on the thing. Okay, so now that I have this, I've added some random trees basically, and I have my rocks that admittedly are a little bit not very well shaped yet, so I might just work on that a tiny bit more, so that then I can move on to the fantasy elements basically. I'm using this kind of rock textured brush. Many of my professors suggested not to go into the gaming industry right now. It's messed up at the moment. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just very, very competitive, and companies a lot of the times ask for an insane amount of work, and they, at the end of the day, work is not the reason in life. And that's something that it's something that changes with age as well, because just only recently I've started thinking, I don't want to spend all my time working, because when I was a little bit younger, and it's not like I'm super old now, but when I was a little bit younger than this, maybe like a few years ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I wouldn't mind, just working most of my time and just have, obviously have like a little bit of a social life, but most of the time I would be working, and then just sort of maybe, going out with my friends or whatever, but most of my evenings would be spent working, and that was fine for me. But recently I started feeling like, I don't want to work in the evening. I just want to have like a normal routine where in the evening I do whatever. I watch a movie, I spend time with my partner, I do sports, and that's just something that changes with time, because as I said before, it wasn't a problem for me. But we do live in a society that is kind of like focused on just seeing work as some sort of achievement just for the sake of it, like if you're working hard, then it's good. It's like, why is it good? It's like we should be questioning this a little bit more, I think. It's like it's not always good to work hard. It's also good to enjoy your time off. I mean, at the end of the day, especially if you work for someone else, you're basically creating worth for this company, and if you're not rewarded, fairly by this company, or given enough time to just enjoy your life aside from, work, then is it really worth it? But I guess, yeah, we live in a society where work is just good, and I don't think it is always just good. This said, I wouldn't mind working for, some really nice, big projects and big companies as a freelancer, so that you just work for a specific project or a specific task in this project, and then you're done. Okay, so I kind of like very roughly how this looks like now. I think it looks okay in terms of the value and sort of like what's going on in this image. I think it's a bit more clear than before. So now I'm gonna try and give it the fantasy sort of aspects. And honestly, I'm not really sure how to do that, but I'm gonna try. So I am thinking to look up some elven art. So for example, I could put in the very front a very dark bridge. Very, very dark. And again, this is going to be super rough, so it's kind of like as if we're watching this from the bridge. You cannot put in all these little details to make it more elven. This is still kind of like a spade paint, so I'm not going to be obsessing too much about the details, or rather, you know, I'm not going to be obsessing too much about how rough this is, basically. Okay. Just adding a little bit of highlight. Okay. So I'm not sure where the light in this image is coming from over here, I think. And kind of like going down from the left to the right, like that. So I might just do the same, but maybe just give a little bit more light as if it's coming from behind the camera, so that this whole area over here is lit up, just because it gives a little bit more interest to the scene, I think. And then I might add not down. Okay. Might add like a little elven temple. On this bit of rock. Maybe not there, maybe here. just trying to make this a little bit more Albany. And maybe something else over here. I don't know. I'm really bad with architectures. I don't like this. Okay, let's try again. What can I put over here? Because I was thinking of something like a little bit of a building that kind of like goes up into the into here, like the waterfall, right? So maybe Maybe something like this. And then maybe some like roofs over there. Okay. I'm sorry for being quite silent today, but this needs all my concentration because it's so outside of my comfort zone. Hey Sarah, how are you? Sorry, I'm pretty quiet today. mostly because I'm trying very hard not to screw this up and not really managing. I mean, this is definitely not my best work. How are you, Sarah? Oh, thank you. Don't worry, you don't need to be sorry about it. I know that, everybody has, their own busy schedules and busy lives. It's completely normal and there's nothing to be sorry about. So what have you been up to? Hope your reStarter challenge has been going well. Love seeing all your progress. Oh, thank you. It's going alright, I think. I mean, I haven't been able to be as consistent with it as I was for the first 2 weeks, only because drawing background is actually quite time consuming, obviously. And as I'm reaching sort of like the end of the month, I always get busier because my deadline are sort of like, coming in, clients coming to collect the goods. They want the goods and I don't have the goods because I haven't finished all the different commissions that I was supposed to be doing this month. So, yeah. So unfortunately, I'm having a little bit less time to work on my own stuff and my Patreon stuff, and yeah, I just have to work on my boring actual job stuff. But it's all good. Okay, so I'm trying to be a little bit faster here and just, screw it. Doesn't matter anyway. I'm just trying to, backgrounds are really terrifying, yeah. Okay. And now just the last bit of background. Over here. Okay, so this is kind of like the basic background, and I'm gonna try and simply add some cute lighting and shading and see if this kind of does it. Let's see. think I need to do some changes to the color a little bit, because I started with a certain color palette and then I just kind of completely changed it. So yeah, let's see. Yeah, much better. So the way that I'm trying to do it now is that I am keeping all the foliage a little bit more purpley and lighter, and instead I'm going to keep the buildings a little bit more cold and kind of like the saturated colors. Let's see if I change the tone of the... Oh, okay. So here's making the rocks a little bit more green, and here's by making them a little bit warmer, and then darker again. I think this is my favorite one actually, especially because this way I can kind of give it like a sunset kind of lighting, I think. Also, hi Kate Louise. And I also struggle with backgrounds. Sorry I've not been saying much. Love how your background is turning out. Thank you. Don't worry again for not saying much. I have been so busy trying to figure out how I can save this background that yeah, it's totally fine. So okay, so I've decided now. I think the issue with this background, now that I sort of like look at it at, you know, kind of at the end, reflecting back on it, is that I started with a reference that had a very different color palette from the one that I wanted to do at the end. So I realize now at the end that I want my background to have this sort of color palette. So very warm and like purpley, and maybe with a touch of like orangey pink, I think. And then the accent will be this kind of warm, like colder colors, like blue and, you know, dark blue, whatever. But the reference is completely different, right? It's got like all these bright, sort of saturated greens, and I don't want to do that. So I just realized that I need to kind of do that at the start, maybe, like, you know, figure out my palette before I do all the you know, actual coloring, because otherwise I tend to not know what I'm doing basically, and just takes longer to figure it out. So yeah, definitely for next time, that's good advice for myself. There you go. I'm also making this a little bit more saturated and magenta. This image building needs to be a little bit okay. this needs to be not green, but like, okay, reddish. And this needs to be a little bit darker, because the more something is closer to the camera, the darker it should be. And that's especially true for these trees in the front that are way, way, way too light. Okay. So maybe something needs to be a bit lighter in the back, like for example, this rock. So that it looks a little bit further away. And maybe also this house. Okay. Okay, I think now oh, I know that you know each other, Sarah and Kate. So now I think it works a little bit better in terms of value and colors, definitely. So what I'm gonna try and do now is to add some lighting. Which I might do on top of everything. So I'm just gonna create a clipping mask on top of everything and go with the lighting. You're gonna add this kind of like warm light, as if the lighting is coming like from this area over here. Or maybe I could just follow the reference for once, considering that's exactly the reason that I was saying, you know, earlier on, how I'm gonna try and do it with the lasso tool. Okay, quite like this. And very roughly, let's add a multiply layer. Thank you. Blender is a lot easier for backgrounds. Huh. Well, I mean, it's definitely easier if you want to like plan it out maybe, and then you can just overpaint it, which is definitely a good choice, I think. Okay, so let's add another layer of highlights. Okay. Okay, so one side is definitely like flooded by all this light, and the other let's add another layer of multiply with blue. Okay. I quite like this. I mean, it could definitely use a lot more work, but I'm not hating it. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Okay, so let's see if I can improve this with maybe with some color balance adjustments. Also trying to see how it looks like in my other screen. It's like this is more like very purpley. Instead, this is just a little bit more green. I like the yellow more, like it's kind of flooding with light. Okay. Okay, I think this works better, like it brings out the red a little bit more from the part in shadow as well. Thank you, Mano. Yeah, I think it works now a little bit. I mean, it's very rough, but as rough pieces go, it could be worse. Especially like this area here is the one that I really don't like because nothing's going on there. It's really odd. It's like it's just bad, really. But whatever. I can't be asked to change it right now. No, definitely not increase, not contrast. Thank you! Thank you for your praise, guys. Okay, you know what? I think I'm done. I think this is done. Even though it's very, very rough. But I decided that it's a fair advance on just kind of like the normal background that I was doing yesterday. Definitely that one, if you look at it, it was probably better, the one that I did yesterday, but it was better mostly because the one that I did yesterday was like just copying the stuff that I was, that I was seeing in the reference. Is that this has, me trying to actually work out what I'm doing, which isn't as easy. Thank you. Yeah, that was the idea, like an elven village or something like that. So I'm glad that it looks like it. Okay. I'm wondering if I should just not have this over here. Maybe it would look better. Because it just looks a little bit okay. So I'm just literally doing the last thing, I swear. Okay. Yep, I actually very much like this better, where I don't have that sort of like elven temple over there that looks just a little bit odd. So yeah, I'm very happy with it now. Well, very happy. I am reasonably happy with it now. Cool. So guys, I hope that you had a good time hanging out with me and trying to make sense of this background with me, which was hard, definitely very much hard. And yeah, so I will see you on Monday, because tomorrow there's no stream. Tomorrow it's Sunday, so if you want, you can watch a good movie. Because next week we're having the story week of the Artist Restarter Challenge, which means that we're going to be focusing on story, and every day we're going to be doing like studies of scenes and character interaction, and then drawing some prompts. So yeah, it's all going to be about character interaction and trying to make your composition tell your story for you, kind of thing. And yeah, I'm happy that you were all here. Thanks Sarah, thanks Kate, thanks Mano, thank you everybody who was here, and I will see you on Monday. Thanks guys, bye!